stay tuned because for the next 60 minutes, Motorsports Unlimited is on the air. Hi, I'm Jerry Bryant, and these are the lovely ladies of motorsports. And all this hour, we're going to have 60 minutes of action-packed excitement. All kinds of exciting things will happen. And we got the famous Bill Wildt, and we got all kinds of other good stuff that's happening all this hour. Motorsports Unlimited, 60 minutes of non-stop action. So let's go to the studio right now, huh?
Thanks, Jerry, and hi, everybody. Welcome to the studio headquarters of Chicagoland's most watched, most talked about Access television series. I'm Samantha Bentley, and this is the 1011th edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Today, we're taking you to Lake County Fairgrounds in Grayslake, Illinois for the annual end-of-summer Graffiti Gold car show and swap meet. Our regular viewers know this is one of Joe Bellel's Skips Fiesta events, and that means the swap meet is just as important as the car show. As a matter of fact, many come just for the swap meet. But if you do that, you're cheating yourself out of a great car show. What do I mean? Look what Bill found while looking for Joe Bellel.
Well, you have to know this caught my eye right away. Seems to be that in the past few years I've gotten more and more of an affection for the antique cars. Now we're in the swap meet. This is kind of hard to explain on Joe Bellel's shows. We'll be talking to Joe later, hopefully. On his shows, they are part car show, part swap meet, and they have a corral with guys that are trying to sell cars and all that. And I was really surprised. I walked down there before. There was an absolutely perfect 49 Buick down there. I mean, absolutely perfect. Did you see the car?
No, I haven't. I just got here.
Just got here. Beautiful. And as I walk back here, I spot this, and it looks like an all-original 28 Hudson with a rumble seat. Now, first of all, before I go and screw it all up and say it wrong, you are.
My name's Bob Besh.
And where are you from, Bob?
Grayslake, right down the street here, actually.
Just down the street. Tell us about your car.
Well, this was my stepfather's car. It belonged to a collection of cars by Mr. Earl Young, who's kind of renowned in the automotive industry, at least the collector car industry. He had many cars over the year. We used to own the Hitch and Post Hotel in Libertyville, and we had our private museum there, and he restored a lot of the cars ourselves. This is a 28 Super 6 Hudson Roadster that we bought from a guy in Indiana several years ago. Actually, it was the last car that he bought just before he passed away.
With a rumble seat?
With the rumble seat. And it's just a nice running car, and unfortunately we have to sell all his cars, so Joe Bealey lets me bring a car out here every once in a while and display them and sell them.
Did he pass away?
Yeah, just last year.
Oh, I'm sorry. And no other person in the family is a car collector type person?
Not really. I guess it's just me, but I've been involved with him my whole life. Not my whole life, 30 years. So.
Do you get to use the car at all, drive it?
Yeah, to shows and Super 6 they call it.
Super 6. Now, have you driven this car at all?
Just locally around here, not really toured with a lot of.
Okay, well, I guess my question is, how would you contrast it with driving a modern car today? Presumably 1928, I wouldn't think they would have had hydraulic brakes, or did they?
No, it's mechanical brakes, and actually pretty sturdy car. Runs really good. The motor needs a little carburetor, but I haven't run this car in about 2 months or so. So I just started it up this morning, started right over, and over here.
What I mean is, as far as stopping power is concerned, something you have to be careful of, or does it
you
have
always
adequate
have to
stopping
leave
power?
any antique car, you always have to allow yourself a little extra time, but of course we don't attain the speeds as you do as fast in modern cars. So, but this thing will get up and go. I mean, it'll do 65
I was going to
easy.
say, how about cruising speed? Will it run 60,
Sure.
65?
Sure.
Is it an overdrive car?
Yeah, it's got overdrive in this
Okay,
car.
so that helps a lot, keep the RPM down a little bit.
Sure.
And you say you've only had it for, what, about 6 years now? Something?
Maybe not even that. Maybe like 4 or 5 years, something like that. We've had this car. So.
It looks like it's unrestored original, is it?
Right, it's unrestored original car. I'm not really sure on the complete history car. It might have been restored many years ago, maybe 30 years ago, from the looks of the paint and everything like that. But when we got it was in pretty rough shape, really dirty. It was sitting in a barn for a long time. In a guy's collection.
Isn't it hard to believe that in 2006 you can still find cars in a barn?
Every once in a while, I guess it's...
I mean, it's rare, but it can be done.
Right. This guy had several cars, but and this one he just didn't use at all, and it was just sitting there collecting dust for quite some time.
Well, I'll tell you something. I'm amazed at the kind of conditions, and the body panels are all straight, and what looks like original paint. It may not be. It may have been restored, as he said, about 20 or 30 years ago. But it looks remarkably like everything is there, because I can imagine to restore some of these would be very difficult now. They didn't make a lot of them to begin with, and no aftermarket company is going to knock things out for. They do it for Model A's and all that, but they're certainly not going to do it for very rare cars. It's not worth the tooling up. Gorgeous car, Chuck. Frame it up. I'm not sure if we've seen a 28. I know we haven't seen a 28 Hudson with a rumble seat before, and I think you can probably see why this one caught my eye.
There is something elegant about antique cars. Hi, I'm Patty Borwitz. Surprised to see Bill didn't start the show with organizer Joe Bilal. I guess the 1928 Hudson was something he just couldn't pass up. Now it's time to chat with Joe.
We are, and by the way, that Skips Fiesta sign, I kind of take it for granted that everybody knows what that is, but I guess it's 63 years old, and Skips Fiesta was closed decades ago. That maybe everybody doesn't know that Skips Fiesta was a place on North Avenue, probably the beginning in the Chicagoland area, the beginning of what we might call the car cruising places. And I've got a guy here that can give us a little bit of history on the Skips thing and a little bit about why he's connected to it. First of all, you are
Joe Bilal from Skips Fiesta Drive-In.
That's correct. Do you remember, and I'll bet you do, when Skips closed?
1971.
71, so it has been many decades.
Actually, I've been doing the show longer than the place was open.
Isn't
Next year
that
will be our
interesting?
25th year, and they were open from 1953 to 1971, so I guess that's 18 years.
18 years. Now, what you did was after Skips closed down, somewhere along the line, you ended up purchasing the rights to the names or something like that, and you created a Skips reunion show. What Skips was a place that we all went and kind of hung out at with our cars, with the hot cars and all that. Kind of an American Graffiti type thing before there was American Graffiti. I think probably what created one of the places that created the movie. And when it closed down, there was probably, when did they open? How long were they open?
Well, I guess it was probably 18 years, and they closed in 1971.
Okay, so those 18 years, that there was, a couple or three generations of people that have gone through there. And in order to kind of keep the memory alive, Joe decided to buy the name and go ahead and put together a car show called the Skips Reunion, and that was your first one. Right. And then over time, you started developing more and more car shows from them. And this one that we're at today, this is in September, and this is traditional for you, is called Graffiti Gold. How am I doing?
You're doing real well.
Okay, and the important thing about your car shows is each and every one of them is also a swap meet.
Right. We have a nice acres of parts here.
Could you have had a better day than today?
I just go absolutely gorgeous.
It is. I'm telling you, it's such a beautiful day, and I must admit, normally I wait for you to start, but I spotted that 28 Hudson Road. I had to go over there and do a piece with him. So my apologies. It caught my attention.
That's fine. Yeah, it's a great car, isn't it?
Okay, now you're going to have Chuck. If you go up onto the bandstand here, I don't know if you can see it there or not. I want you to see that there's a sign up there that says "Welcome, Bill Wildt, Motorsports Unlimited." You get to the far right of the stage, Chuck, or left. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right of the stage. I want to thank you for putting that up there. We appreciate it.
Yeah, great.
And are you going to have a band later?
Yeah, we're going to have a band up here, and then we have the DJ out in the show car field.
Okay, so to give us an idea then, these shows have a band, a DJ, a swap meet,
whatever,
and a cool car show.
Right, and a lot of other stuff.
All right, we got a lot of work to do to cover all this stuff. Is there anything you want to add before we get rolling?
No, just have a good time out there.
We always have a good time up here. And by the way, I should say we are at I have to be careful about this. I made a mistake. This is the Lake County Fairgrounds, but this is the Lake County in Illinois. There's also Lake County, Indiana. Did you know that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is Lake County, Illinois Fairgrounds. And by the way, it's very easy to find it. You just take 94 like you're going to Milwaukee, watch for 120, take 120 west, and it drives you right here, right?
It's very easy access.
Very easy access. Anyway, we're going to get rolling now. Joe Bilal, the guy that is keeping the memory of Skips alive.
It's a good thing Joe did what he did. Otherwise, Skips would have been long forgotten by now. Hi, I'm Janine Lauschat. Let's get back to the cars with a typical 50s street rod.
I was going to say that the fuel tank mounted in front of the radiator is probably decoration and probably not really functional, because it's something that was very popular back in the 50s, and we did it because we wanted to get as much weight transferred to the front on the dragsters as we could, so that when they launched and lifted the front wheels off the ground, they had weight there to keep the front wheels down. On the other hand, it wasn't the safest thing in the world, particularly on a street car, so I said to this gentleman, I assume that's just for decoration to give it the 50s look. He says, no, it's real. I got my fuel up there. Please tell the folks who you are.
Yeah, my name is Ray Piasecki.
And where are you from, Ray?
Antioch, Illinois.
Tell us about your car.
Well, I've had it since I had a dragster back in the 50s, and I I got married and I had to get rid of dragster, so I took this on trade. It was about 1963, I believe. I've had this thing since 63. I finished it in about 75.
Are they ever really finished?
Yeah, not really. I'm always changing it, you know. It's
Well, I want you to start with the make, year, and model.
all right, 1932, five-window coupe, Model B. They had the four cylinders. It was just a 1932 Ford. The Model B designated the first V8s, Henry's first V8.
That's correct. 1932, as I recall, 221 cubic inch flathead V8.
I don't know the size, but you're right. Yeah.
And this, you do not have a flathead in here.
No, not really. No.
What have you got?
355 small block Chevy. I'm probably pushing about 450 horse with it.
And what kind of trans?
A 700R with a lock.
You got an automatic. I'm surprised. You're a guy my age, I think you would want a 4-speed.
When I did. When I first built it, I had a 4-speed. Now it's a 700R with a lock-up converter. I can unlock the converter or lock it, you know, for out in the tollway. Ford 9-inch rear end.
Now, do you actually use the car?
Yeah.
What about drag strip use?
I did drag it a couple years ago. I haven't been back up there. I have another dragster. So
What kind of numbers?
this thing, I don't remember. It's probably about 120, something like that.
It ran that fast?
Yeah.
And you don't remember the last time or anything?
No, it's been a while.
The interior has the look and almost kind of the smell, too, of real leather, is it?
Yeah, it's real leather, correct.
Beautifully done. Now, is there anything that I haven't... Oh, tell us about the fuel tank. Now, my question is, does the law never question you on that?
Actually, no. It takes a place's license plate in front. So, we used to call them the weekend warriors because that's the tank. When you went up to the drag strip, you put the expensive gas or your fuel in, whatever, and then during the week you ran off the regular tank. You know, so.
Yeah, because I'm sure you can see that that's probably not the safest place in the world for the fuel tank.
No, but it's a common thing.
Yeah, but exactly. And besides that, maybe we spend a little bit too much time worrying about safety and not about having a good time these days. At least that's my observation.
There's a line you got to draw somewhere. You know.
Draw the line somewhere, and don't forget about you only get one turn. Let's have some fun. You know.
Yeah, right. You only go around once.
Anything that I haven't noticed about your car that you're proud of, you'd like the audience to know?
Well, I built the frame. Well, it's a 32 frame. I boxed the frame rails and made the cross members. I'm a tool maker, so I made a lot of stuff myself.
And once again, let me just say that we've talked about that on Motorsports Unlimited before, that it is not a great idea to use 1932 Ford frame rails unless you know what you're doing. There are many aftermarket companies that produce this stuff brand new with new material that isn't crystallized. Some of it you can buy boxed and all that, but if you know what you're doing, you can take the early stuff, box it, but you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Back when I did this, all that wasn't available. You know, I did this back.
Exactly.
So, you know, there was articles on boxer frame rails. I used the 1018 plate and boxed it, and it come out real nice. It's a good, strong chassis.
Well, it's a really striking car. Chuck, show the audience the car. I love it with the fuel tank in the front. I don't know how he gets by on the street with that, but more power to him.
The Deuce Coupe is probably the most popular traditional American street rod, but our next car might be an example of the most popular 50s car.
With a license plate like this, you just know that we found somebody that has a 55 Chevy, and I'm going to tell you something. If I were going to have a 55 Chevy, this is the one it would be because it's a convertible, and you all know how much I love open cars. More important than that, it's got a manual transmission, presumably a 4-speed floor box, and if you're as old as I am, that's the way you want. In fact, the first thing you did, those of us who went to Lane Tech High School, went up and down Western Avenue and all the used car lots, and when we'd spot something like this in the lot, the first thing we do is we'd run up to it and look in there, and if there was a floor shift sticking up, we knew that was a car for us, a hot rod. First of all, you are?
I'm Gary Essie from Madison, Wisconsin.
We're from Madison, okay, and you apparently fancy yourself Mr. 55, or is that the car?
Well, when you've had over 255 Chevrolets, I guess you can kind of call yourself what you want.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
I put myself through college buying and selling old beater 55 Chevys, and I've had a couple more than I ever thought I would ever have at this time.
I am absolutely... Why a 55?
I just always liked them. I was in Madison when I was a kid, and Truex Air Force Base was open, and every time somebody got stationed somewhere else, they had to sell their car, and most of them had 5, 6, or 7 Chevys, so I was buying anywhere from 7 to 10 a month.
And somehow you just hooked on to the 55 thing rather than the 57s and all that?
I've always been a 55 guy. Right now I got 9 convertibles, 2 Nomads. I've got quite a few hardtops, but I can't afford to do one yet. The price isn't there, but I've got a lot of them right now.
Well, of course, the audience should know that the 55 was a significant car because it was a major change in design, not just a styling change, but a change in the chassis design, a change in, this was the first year of the V8 engine of the famous small block Chevy V8, a 265 cubic inch V8 engine, which became probably the most famous of all of the pushrod 2-valve overhead valve V8s in America. So the 55 was a significant car, no question about it, but I've got to admit, I have never met a person that has had over 255 Chevys. I'm surprised I don't know you, that I haven't run into you before.
Well, I'm a hobbyist, and I don't really sell too much. I've got quite a few cars that I would never have for sale, and this is kind of one of them right here. This car has a 6-speed, a Corvette motor with a 6-speed in it.
Okay, give us an idea. The engine from what?
It's a brand new crate motor. I bought it 2 years ago from Chevrolet right out of the box.
Okay, 2 years ago. So, because the question today is it the 427 version or the 350 version?
It's a 360 horse 350 with a 6-speed with a 456 tail gear.
Now, did you do any of the work?
I do a lot of the work in my cars.
So you also enjoy not just buying and selling the merchant part of it, you also enjoy the mechanical detailing yourself and all that?
Right. I'm also into car shows and swap meets. I run 4 of them a year in Wisconsin.
Is that right?
Yep. Right.
I am shocked. Well, I've been doing the show for 20 years now. I'm shocked that we haven't run into each other before. In any event, is there anything that I haven't noticed about your car that you're particularly proud of that you'd like the audience to know?
I bought this car in 1972 for $219.50. I still have the receipt.
I'll give you $219 for it right now.
Well, it was one of those things where, like I said, I lived over by this Air Force base, and every day we turned around, there was somebody else that had a car for sale. Everybody was shipping out. That was back in the days when Nam was hot, and I mean, everybody was going to Alaska or Vietnam. You couldn't take your car with you, so they put it up for sale.
Yeah, and apparently you just never walked away from it.
No, I didn't. I was really involved with it all the way through college. I actually quit my job as a claims adjuster after 20 years in 1982. Started Jefferson and Elkhorn and other shows, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
That's where your shows are typically, Jefferson, Elkhorn, and all that?
Yeah, Jefferson, Wisconsin, Elkhorn, and Waukesha over by Milwaukee.
Sure, I used to race motorcycles up at the old Elkhorn track. I don't know if they still have the fly track there or not.
Oh, yes, they still have it there. In fact, it's the fair this weekend. I just went by there about a half hour ago, and they're going great guns up there yet.
Many fond memories of it. Chuck, show the audience a car. It is not often that you'll get a chance to see one quite this nice. What I like about it is the look of it is entirely stock and original, and apparently all the running gear is late model high performance stuff. I absolutely love it.
Over 255 Chevys. Yikes! I don't know quite what to say about that. While we think about it, let's check out a little of the swap meet.
Sometimes the swap meets can be every bit as interesting as the car show that's part of Joe Billell's operations. And as you look at all the array of the parts, many people look at that stuff and say, why would anybody want all of that junk? Well, I have news for you. Everything you saw there is somebody that's looking for some piece like that. But it's not just parts. Chuck, show the audience the car. We have a complete midget here, and this thing is absolutely in gorgeous shape. The only thing is you kind of have to wonder who would be looking for something like this because race stuff gets obsolete very quickly. We're going to find out about all that. First of all, you are.
Don Francisco.
Where are you from, Don?
Prospect Heights, Illinois.
First of all, I'm assuming you have some interest in midgets because I see on the other side of your display there you've got a midget nose.
Yes, I've owned and raced midgets for the last 20 years, and this is a Harry Turner car which was built in Chicago. Very famous car, monocoque construction, 850 pounds dry weight.
This is a monocoque car? I didn't know there were any midgets built that way.
There were 4 built. Several of them ended up in Australia, but this is one of the few that survived, and I've been a proud owner of it since 1983.
Okay, before you go any farther, I want the audience to make sure that they know what we're talking about, monocoque car. Normally, particularly the midgets, are all tube frame cars, meaning if you notice we've got tubes here. Chuck, can you see any of those tubes, or am I blocking everything? But these are all suspension component tubes. This is to support the front axle and all that. But you would normally have an upper frame tube and a lower frame tube. This car, this is the frame. This entire, presumably aluminum, is folded up. It doesn't have any internal tubing to support it. This actually supports the weight of the vehicle. This is the way Formula One cars and Indy cars are built and all that. And I did not know that anybody brought it into midget racing. Interesting.
Yes, this was built back in the late 60s, and Harry Turner was an innovator of this car, and he came up with this idea. Took away about 400 pounds weight of the car.
But if I understand the midget rules, they would have made you add weight to compensate.
I think with the large gas tank, he was able to meet the weight limitations. So the car was very competitive. It's got a very famous history and a lot of famous drivers. Paul Russo drove the car.
Really?
White drove the car. Gary Bettenhausen originally drove the car. The car has a great history. We wanted to run it at Bonneville, but with the classifications and the frame requirements, we weren't able to do that. The car's run all over the country, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
Now, you say you personally have raced?
Yes.
Did you race the car?
Yes.
Was there any noticeable difference with the monocoque than a tube-frame car?
Well, I managed to beat just about everybody in the class, so there definitely was a weight advantage. The car is very unusual. It's got a weight jacker here, so as you lose fuel, you can adjust the weight and the handling.
You must race at Grundy County Speedway.
Oh, yes. I've raced there with Alice Swenson, Johnny Riva, and some of the great drivers over the past few years.
It sounds like you have a rich history and affection for midgets. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm going to be 67.
Okay, are your driving days over?
Yes.
Okay, but I cannot believe you're partying with something like this.
Well, it's just a matter of wanting to get into something for the street, possibly in a Corvette.
Something you can personally do.
Yes.
Okay, so you know what? This guy kind of thinks like I do. I love racing, loved racing all my life, but people were always surprised, like after I was done flat track motorcycle racing, that I went on to car racing and all that. And the reason is, I want to race. I'm not married to any one of them. And I know as my age has gotten older and everything, you have to kind of change what you do because you can't do midgets at 67, you know?
Well, you can.
Unless you're Mel Kenyon.
Well, no, I have several friends that are still racing, and in fact, one of my friends, DeRay Leclerc, just set the world land speed record with a midget at Bonneville this year. Went over 131 miles an hour, the Offenhauser-powered Curtis midget.
And what is this one powered by?
This is a Chevy 2 engine.
Okay, and over the years, folks, and by the way, the reason we have guests on the program is I need all the help I can get. So if I say it wrong, don't hesitate to jump in. You're the expert on this. But over the years, midgets have had a wide variety of engines that were the engine to have, and it has to do with how they set the rules up and all that. Volkswagen engines, the air-cooled opposed 4 was at one time the very hot ticket because of the way the rules were structured, and then as it went on to Cosworth, the double overhead cam Cosworth was the hot ticket. Then the Pontiac engine, and it has to do with who's sponsoring and who's, because you can kind of manipulate the rules to make any of them competitive.
That's right.
Okay, any kind of interest in somebody, because somebody buying something like this, I would assume wouldn't be buying it to race it.
It's probably going to end up in a museum someplace.
Collector piece.
A collector piece, yes.
Okay, is there anything I haven't noticed about it that you think that the audience should know? You're apparently quite a historian on midgets, so please feel free.
Well, the car is very unusual, and it's priced very reasonable. I think some museum is going to end up with it.
Well, I certainly hope so, because you'd hate to see these actual pieces of our racing history, you'd hate to see them lost forever. This one, particularly interesting and important because of the monocoque chassis. Didn't know they ever had a midget built that way.
Bill's right. You find all kinds of interesting stuff at the swap meet part of Joe Bellel's shows. Let's see what he found next.
Just to give you a small idea of how big these swap meets out here that Joe Bellel puts on, as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to look around. I think the swap meet is significantly larger than the car show portion of this. I'm not absolutely positive, but there are like acres and acres of this. This is just one particular area, and we're going to talk to a fella here that has a wide variety of stuff. This stuff varies. There are professional vendors, there are private guys that are emptying out their garages. Usually people emptying out their garages have specific stuff. They finish their Camaro and they got a bunch of Camaro stuff or what have you. It looks like he's got a bunch of all kinds of stuff. So I don't know, professional vendor or what?
No, just something to get rid of. We race cars on the side, my son and I, and we have extra parts. Occasionally he'll update stuff, and there's older transmissions that he used to use. Now he's updating to newer stuff, and that's basically what we have. Old tires from the car. Now we like different rims, so we change it. So,
okay, first of all, tell the audience who you are.
I'm Chester. I'm from Fox
Chester
River
what?
Grove. Chester Olenchek from Fox River Grove.
Okay, so the reason that you have a wide variety of stuff is what? You change cars all the time?
We race the same car, but we change the parts, and we've run across, living in the city, we had a bunch of old Mustangs that we stripped, and you get more money for parts than you do the whole car nowadays. So.
Yeah, very often that happens.
Right.
Now give us an idea. What are people most interested in?
Tires,
because
headers.
that's kind of universal. Tires will fit on any kind of vehicle.
Exactly. Headlights or stuff like that. Parts that you go to junkyard, you pay a lot more for, or if you try to get it new, forget it because it's just way out of price.
Right, either that or totally unavailable.
Right.
Now, folks, to give you an idea what somebody, young, let's say 15, 16-year-old guy, maybe he's building a header system for his car, doesn't have a lot of money. Building a header system, this is a collector. You would weld the you'd need one for each side on a V8 engine. You would take the 4 tubes coming from the cylinder heads down into these collectors and dump it out to an exhaust on this side. This part, I don't know, but if you go to a manufacturer for something, you're going to pay a good buck for a fabricated part like this, whereas you can pick them up at swap meets dirt cheap, and for a 15 or 16-year-old, this is how they get their projects going.
That's how we got it started, just like that. You come get the used stuff like we've done. We bought this stuff used. We use it now. We upgraded to newer stuff, more newer stuff, modern stuff.
How much of your participation in a swap meet has to do with cleaning out the garage, number one, or number two, trying to make a few bucks, or number three, the camaraderie?
All the above.
All important.
All the above. You don't want a cluttered garage. We moved, and this is like, I can't fit this in my garage anymore.
No more room.
Right, because I got a 3-car garage. I got 3 cars now, so all this stuff needs to go because we're not using it anymore. So.
And on top of that, he also has fun at the event.
I've been to a few swap meets with my husband, and I must say, it's amazing how excited guys get about old car parts. But I understand why they would enjoy this one.
Well, Herbie Horn, if you're watching, I'm doing this one for you. Nobody knows what I'm talking about. Herbie Horn was a friend of mine that I had in high school. And Chuck, as you pull your camera shot back, stay with the car for a moment. He had either a 55, or it was actually his father's car, a 55 or a 56 Pontiac. When I saw this one, it brought me back a long time because it was a car that he took out to the, I've got a statement that his father made that I thought was great. It was a car that we took to Oswego Dragway many times, and the one thing that I remember most about it was the thing would chirp the tires as the hydromatic shifted every gear. And I remember the line that his father used once. He says, I have to kick the thing on the side to get it going, and he goes and wins races at the drag strip with it. It was a line that I haven't forgotten. Anyway, it takes me back a long time, and that's part of what these swap meets do. First of all, you are
Richard Fink.
Where are you from, Richard?
West Dundee, Illinois.
Okay, wait a minute. I got another person here to introduce also. She said, don't ask me anything. And you are?
Geraldine Saylor.
From?
West Dundee.
Okay, to you this is probably just an old car, right?
No, it's a very beautiful car.
But it's an old one, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, and somebody like me who had it in his high school days and went to the drag strip, we've got to be really old too, right? I'm just teasing. I am only teasing you. It's quite okay. We know what our age is. Tell us, what we got here?
It's a 1955 Pontiac Star Chief 2-door hardtop. It's got the original drivetrain in it, which is a 287 cubic inch with the hydromatic, as you mentioned earlier.
We should say it's a 287 cubic inch V8, overhead valve V8. In 1955 was their first year for this.
That's correct.
And the thing that most people don't realize, it had cross-bolted mains and it had the stamped rocker arms, just like the Chevrolets did.
No, you got me on that. I didn't know that. So,
well, you're not old enough to remember all this. I am.
That's true. That's true. Of course.
What do you use the car for?
Just a daily driver, going back and forth to work, swap meets, and that's about it, really. It's just very reliable.
Now, is there any interest in a car like this at a meet like this?
There seems to be. A lot of people, reminisce.
Reminiscence out of it, all that. And like I say, to me, I take a look at it, and this is why I was laughing with the girl too, because she's obviously very young. But when I was younger than her, when I was her age, we took this thing to Oswego Dragway all the time, and my friend did win trophies with it, and his father did say I had to kick it in the side to get it going, This is the same engine eventually that became a 389 and eventually the 421. Great engine.
That's correct, yeah. It's a good engine. And it's a little bit unusual. It's not a 55 Chevy, which you see, quite often.
Quite free. No. This is a very unusual car.
And
nicely two-door hardtop with the red and white colors. Was those the original colors?
No, it was actually green and white with green and white leather interior.
Would have been the more popular at the time, yes.
Right, exactly. But the red, it's a little flashier.
I also see that you've got a bunch of other stuff. You're not exactly a clean out my garage kind of guy. This stuff looks...
I've been doing this all summer, so this is kind
of
what
you got left.
This is what I got left, right.
Okay.
And what would fit in the trunks.
Question I ask all these guys.
Yes.
Do you do it because you got to clean out your garage? Or do you do it because you want to make some money? Or do you do it because you enjoy the camaraderie?
Camaraderie is a big one, but I'd say all three.
All three. You're the second one that said that. All three.
Yes.
So they're all important. You like the talking to the people and all that too, right?
That's probably the main thing. I love being out here with everyone.
It seems like all the guys that are vendors and everything are very personable. They love to talk about the stuff and all that. And I think that's great. And if it's something you didn't know about swap meets, and Chuck has signaled me on something here, and I'm going to take care of it. But I thank you for that. Listen, Thanks for spending a little time. I've got to close this because we have a guest that is very anxious to be on, unlike the girl. If you would, son, come on right out here. Now, I want you to watch, and I want you to see how well he does this. I want you to turn and look at the camera. You see the camera there? Okay. What's your name?
Bobby David Kent.
And where are you from? Do you know what town?
Yes.
What town?
Illinois.
You're from Illinois. Well, that's the state. That's close. Now, I'll tell you what I want you to do. I'm going to pick your hat up a little bit here so the audience can see your cute face. And I want you to look at our camera over there. Look at our camera, and I want you to say...
Don't go away, folks. I'll be right back.
Aw, he was so cute. I hope he gets to see the show. Let's see what Bill and Chuck found next.
Once again, we've got another vendor here, and I'm not sure if vendor is the correct word because we've got three guys that apparently have gotten together to be vendors, and they're having way too much fun to be considered businessmen. First of all, you are?
I'm Danny Ortiz.
From?
Addison, Illinois.
And?
Jeremy Comito, Chicago.
And?
Jim Comito, Chicago.
Okay, sounds like related?
Yeah, he's my son.
This is your son. Okay. Did you guys, the three of you, got together and bought the space? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, we're real close friends. He's like a dad to me.
Okay, I have a question. Which one of you three could actually get on this? I'm going to lay this tire down. I want to know which one of you guys could get on this thing and not bend it. Which one?
Probably.
One of these two. Not me.
It wouldn't be you or me.
It's going to be me.
Point being that I'm looking at is that I see a wide variety of stuff here. I see everything from a welded up 4-barrel manifold, high-rise manifold there to high-performance valve springs to a whole bunch of motorcycle stuff. Now, who's the motorcycle guy?
I used to have bikes years ago and just extra pieces that I've had around the garage.
Okay, but you say you did too?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay. And who has the high-performance car stuff?
All of us.
So you guys like all the stuff then? I thought when I saw the way the parts were laid out, I said, okay, somebody's into bikes, somebody's into high-performance cars, because we see, Chuck, if you tilt your camera shot way down here, you can see you've got a dramatically narrowed rear end, presumably for a dragster?
Yeah, it's for a it's a shortened rear end for an S10 pickup, is what it's actually out of, 34 inches long.
Okay, so you guys are all car guys that work on this stuff, and what about snowmobiles? Snowmobiles too? No snowmobiles? You're missing something. What about boats? No boats?
No boats.
Okay, so strictly car guys. What are people interested in?
I would say a lot of drag racing, all forms of racing, different the cars that normally street cars. It's a big thing now.
Okay, and I would guess that it would be the tires that people would be inquiring about most, because that would fit in, go in any kind of car.
We just sold a few sets, a few sets of tires. We don't race cars, though. We race S10 trucks.
Okay, but that's really no different.
We're at the Grove all the time. We're at the Grove.
Okay, what kind of numbers?
1020s, 1050s.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you guys. I want you guys to all answer this. This is 3 questions. Do you do this in order to clean out the garage, or to make some money, or for the camaraderie of it?
I would say the camaraderie of it, and also a little bit to clean the garage out and buy more stuff.
Make room for new. More mistakes.
Camaraderie or?
Camaraderie and room so I can put my lawnmower back.
So it's kind of all 3 things again.
Probably all 3.
All 3, and because you guys enjoy talking with the people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You know, we hear that over and over again, folks. Apparently the part of the swap meet thing, if we're going to understand it correctly, is not just about buying and selling parts. It's really a social engagement.
Bill's made the point before. Swap meets, and car shows for that matter, are rare places where males who don't know each other will engage in spontaneous conversation. Interesting. Let's see what caught Bill and Chuck's attention next.
Talk about a great shirt. That must be, I'm guessing, from about the 30s or so, at least the artwork on it. Pretty cool. As you look around, I don't know if Chuck saw a couple of those other ones as he came over here. Just pan back just a little bit. Part of what they have when they have professional vendors at the swap meets is they bring a lot of the nostalgic stuff back. There's something else that happens at these swap meets. You've just heard vendor after vendor saying that what they get out of this in part is the camaraderie. Well, I'll tell you something else you get. You cannot help but have your memories provoked. Chuck, I want you to go over there. Now, this is going to be nearly impossible. I don't want you to shoot the one in the front. I want you to shoot the one in the back. And I'm going to explain why, and hopefully I'll take a picture of it afterwards so we can give you a little clearer shot. That's a Honda S90. Now, those that have been watching Motorsports Unlimited for any length of time know that I've had motorcycles my entire life, and I've had some pretty hot bikes because I was a professional flat track racer for many years, and I had an XR 750 Harley, and even today I've got a GSX 1100 Suzuki. I've had some really stout machines over the years, but I'm going to tell you something. All the years I spent dirt riding, the most fun I had was when myself and my buddy Todd, when we each had Honda 90s. And that's a Honda 90 over there with a pressed steel frame. First of all, you are?
I'm Robert Tabbert.
And where are you from, Robert?
Bob, I'm Tabbert from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Okay, is that your S90?
That is my S90.
Did you ever ride it?
I rode it for 20 years to work and back.
You know what I'm talking about then? How much fun they are?
They're awesome bike. Yes, they are.
You know, they're an awful bike, but they're awesome.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know how you. In fact, I remember Todd, my friend of mine. I remember his line once. And Chuck, if you would go to the engine, because this is a version of the S90 that's like a drag bike rigid frame chopper version. But if you look at the engine and you see where the spark plug wire is, I remember one time we came out of the mud and muck in Carpentersville. The engine was just a ball of mud, and you saw a spark plug wire sticking out. And I looked at him and I said, "Gee, you wonder how they cool?" And he says, "What makes you think they cool?" Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I do.
And the other thing is that, and again, this is the other one, not the one in the front, the one in the back. These were pressed steel frames, and I can tell you what my buddy Todd and I went through. And again, each week we'd go out and ride in the dirt, and each week we try to come out with something new to beat the other guy. And there was a company called Rower Brothers, the Rower Brother fork conversions that they made for the S90s that added 2 inches of fork travel to the forks. And when he came out with that, he could run over the whoops harder than I could, so I had to get that the following week. Then the following week, he comes out with a Weber cam on his. So I go to the store with a Weber cam. I get the Weber cam, and they had a 104cc kit for it, so I got the 104cc. But I'm telling you, you know what was fun about it?
What was that?
All the other dirt bikes that I've had, in order to defeat the bike, it would take a death-defying hill. It would take a hill so high it would scare you and probably injure you severely if you didn't make it. With the S90s, it wasn't that bad of a hill that would defeat it, so our competition level was the same without the great danger. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. Yes, I do.
So it sounds like you've had a lot of fun with this thing too.
Over the years, I sure did, yes.
Okay, but you've kept yours in stock. That looks like all stock.
It's all stock, all original bike, yes.
Yeah, and you're partying with it.
I am.
Boy, that's
actually, I sold it.
I can't believe that after 20 years.
I did, yeah. It was hard to get rid of, but I did.
Yeah. Now, are you a professional vendor? Or?
Yes, I am.
Okay, but it strikes me as odd that you'd have one of your own personal devices like that you care about that you'd.
I have so many bikes, and insurance is a little expensive on them, so I just had to downsize.
So you ride?
I ride.
Okay.
Yes.
What are you riding now?
Right now, I got a BMW.
Oh, a nice bike.
Yes.
Yeah, nice. I won't even ask you which model because they're all great.
Yes, they are.
And if it were me, it'd probably be an R69S.
Mine's a R80 RT.
Oh, that's a fairly new one.
85.
85. Yeah, that'd be fairly. I'm thinking of R69S back about the late 60s.
Late 60s, yes.
Yeah, late 60s. Also great bikes. Anyhow, I want to thank you for spending a little time with us. It's nice of these guys when they take a time out because Chuck, pan your shot over here to the right, full wide, if you would. He's got all kind of customers that are waiting. This is probably costing him money over here with us. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
It looks like you can spend all day at the swap meet, but Bill and Chuck had to move on to get to the car show. Except they still didn't quite get to the car show.
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Too much of love drives a man insane. You broke my will, that's what I threw. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. I had the love cause I thought it was funny. You broke my heart and things, honey. I changed my mind, just a little now. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Kiss me, baby. You're mine, mine, mine. I took my nails and I filled my thumb. I'm real nervous for the jury. Come on, baby, you drive me crazy. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Take it. so fine. I got to tell this world that you're mine, 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 mine. Not you, my hell, and I do my boy. I feel the living in the cherry and the so baby, you got me crazy. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
That was Graffiti Unlimited, performing most of the day. But Bill and Chuck had to get to the car show. Except Bill got sidetracked again.
I never thought at a swap meet, a motorsports swap meet, that I would be a guy that discovers a really talented artist. But when I saw this stuff, I said, you know what? I don't know if anybody else has discovered him before, and he might be the most famous guy on the planet. But I don't know because I don't operate in the art world, but this stuff is extra special. First of all, who are you?
My name is Drew Kleinhofer.
And where are you from, Drew?
I'm from Downers Grove.
Okay, it looks like, and Chuck, I want you to come in as tight as you can on some of this stuff. It looks like what you're doing is using old car parts and motorcycle parts and nuts and bolts and things like that to create these absolutely beautiful sculptures.
Yeah, this is junkyard recyclables.
How long
put together to make art?
I'm telling you, it's absolutely beautiful. And just hold it in your hand. Don't move so he can come in and focus on it. Once again, here, if we look, we've got all nuts and bolts through here. And for example, Chuck, come in on the wheels on this thing. The wheels are big ball bearings. This is very, very cool. And in the back here for the pillion seat, he's got a little piece of chain that he used. Now, what provoked you to do this kind of artwork?
Well, I first bought many years ago a skier made out of similar things. But then I just started building onto that idea, and I had a brother that repairs trucks, so I get a lot of these parts from him.
Okay, now I want you to tell me, because this is something that will embarrass me greatly. I'm a motorsport guy, so I know who all the great drivers and builders and all that are, but I'm not in the art world. Are you a guy that probably everybody in the art world out there knows, and I just don't happen to know?
No,
I discovered you. Say it. I discovered you.
A lot of people make this stuff, but it's not very common.
No, and I'll tell you something. It takes a certain eye for proportion, and you know what I mean. Some might look at it and say, "Okay, it's old part." I look at it and I see just a beautiful sense of proportion and it's, for example, Chuck, go to that tanker truck in the beginning there. It seems to me that you take a quick glance at it, it almost can look like an original tanker truck until you start looking closer to see what it's made of. And that just suggests to me a sense of creativity to create an illusion using unexpected parts. How am I doing?
Yeah, what I do is I draw a sketch first, and I consider what I've got laying around, and I decide whether it fits or not. And that's how it turns out. This is how this guy turned out, too.
Okay, go ahead and stand him up. You put him in this position, right?
Actually, he has a little pedestal, but he broke off.
But he broke off.
On the way here, the pedestal's not here, so I put him on top of the truck.
Okay, now I want credit for this, and I want you to once again give me your name.
Drew Kleinhofer.
Drew Kleinhofer, and I want you to know that Bill Wildt on Motorsports Unlimited discovered him here out at the Lake County Fairgrounds at the Skips Fiesta Graffiti Gold car show. I want you to make note of that.
You just never know what you're going to find at these events. Not convinced yet? How about this?
You know, I keep saying it, that you don't know what you're going to find at these swap meets. Well, guess what? Look what I found. First of all, tell the folks who you are.
I'm Lamont Harmonica Harris, Chicago blues man.
That's right, and he said he was a blues man, and I says, well, I'll be the judge of that. He whipped out the harp and started doing blues. I says, you want to do a little bit on camera? He said, absolutely. So, my friend,
okay,
you're on. I'm going to hold the mic and step out, and Chuck, just frame him up. Please go right ahead.
All right, this is a song I wrote for Bill Wildt right before I left home, and it goes just like this. Gypsy woman told his mother before he was born, you got a motorhead coming. He's gonna be a son of a gun. He's gonna make pretty women jump and shout. And the world's gonna know what's motorsports all about. You know we're here. Everybody know all the gearheads are here today. We love anything with a motor. We spend all our money on it every day.
I absolutely love it, and I'm so jealous I can't tell you the name once more.
Lamont Harmonica Harris.
Don't forget, Lamont Harris.
That was a complete surprise to Bill. He couldn't have been more pleased. Now, finally, they arrived at the car show.
If you're my age, you would refer to these cars as Hemi Underglass Barracudas. I see he's nodding his head, so he apparently knows what I'm talking about. We'll find out about all that in a minute, but first, you are.
Richard Warkentin.
And where are you from, Richard?
Elmwood Park, Illinois.
Tell us about your car.
It's a 65 Barracuda that's all stock. It came from Oklahoma. I bought it on eBay for $6,000. My shop that I work at Acacia Park Auto Body, we stripped it down to bare metal and repainted it. Came with the 13-inch tires, so I went with the 14-inch Kragers because that's what they were putting on the cars back in the 60s. And,
but you have the original tires?
I have the original tires and everything. I took out the AM radio, I put an AM FM 8-track player in there, and 8-track plays.
What do you play on your 8-track player?
Well, I told all my friends I had an 8-track, and everybody started bringing me all their old 8-tracks. I got about 90 8-tracks, all the 70s.
Do any of them work?
Yes, they do. They do. Amazingly, yes.
Now, what was I talking about when I said Hemi under glass?
Well, back in probably middle 70s, we used to go to Great Lakes Dragway and see them race. They would put the engine in the back, and it was an Olds motor. And they used the Olds transmission, but it was under glass, and in the front there was no engine up front.
Go back 10 years earlier, and you would get the real Hemi under glass, which was a Chrysler Hemi that was underneath it. It was in the wheel standing car.
Oh, yeah.
It was used for the wheel stander,
yes.
And the name of the car was Hemi under glass, and
yep,
that's why we
sure.
called these the Hemi under. What we're talking about, folks, and hopefully I get a shot of it afterwards, is this thing has a huge rear window, like a fastback style thing. And the cool thing about it, when they built the wheel stander, the Hemi under glass wheel stander, is you could see the engine and drive line
going down. Right.
It was very, very cool. Now, why you seem like a very young guy? Why would you want a 1965 car?
When I grew up, my very first car was a '69 Barracuda, and that one I smashed. But now that I'm 45 and I had a chance to get the right Barracuda, I went out and found it and bought it and restored it.
What kind of engine and driveline?
It's a 273 V8, which later was called a 318, and it's got the 3-speed automatic, and that's about it.
And what do you do with the car?
Right now it sits at work, and when people come in, it's our mascot. Everybody talks about it and looks at it, and I bought it for an investment and just to take out to car shows and get out.
So you're enjoying it?
Oh yes, I'll hang on to it.
How was your eBay experience? Did it work out okay?
It worked out great. Actually, the photos look good, and I communicated with the guy. We agreed at $6,000. I sent him the money, but it took about a month to get it shipped up here. But once it was shipped up, I picked it up, and it was everything I thought it would be, and
I keep asking people this because eBay has really changed the face of how we operate in America, and I've had probably a dozen eBay, and every one has been good, but I hear people talking about bad stories, but I had no problems.
If you have good photos, you see what's there, and if it doesn't look right, you make a pass on it. Yeah.
Well, listen, this is a great looking car. Chuck, go back to the car one more time. This is about as pretty as Barracuda as I've ever seen.
My only question would be, what's an 8-track? By the way, I hope you noticed the pretty setting Lake County Fairgrounds in Grays Lake, Illinois is for a car show. Bill wanted to take advantage of this by having a fine street rod make an entrance.
Folks, as you all know, that I love the traditional American street rods, and when I find one that is as original as this, I want to spend a little extra time with it. By the way, go ahead and fire that up one more time. Sure. Listen, folks, this is what a traditional American street rod should sound like. You gotta love the big V8.
Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. Please, if you could, go ahead and get out of here. Folks, as you know, as I said, I love the traditional American street rods, and I love it when we do what I call creative, original, traditional American street rods. Now, if we can close that door so the audience can see this thing. First of all, folks, you expect it to be a Ford. 90% of all the traditional American street rods are Ford-based, either Model T Fords or Model A Fords. Always unusual when you see somebody throws in a Chevrolet or a Dodge, but I don't remember ever seeing anybody throw in a 31 Buick, and that's what this is, a 1931 Buick. And you are?
Frank McHugh from Waukegan.
Frank, please tell us about what we've got here.
It's a 1931 Buick sedan, style 60. Been chopped 4 inches. Got a 455 Buick under the hood.
Get that, folks. That was the sound you heard before. 455 cubic inches of Buick.
Yes, equals 7.5 liter today.
And if I remember how to do it, I'm going to take a picture of the steering gear. If you want to know if it's hard to stick a 455 cubic inch V8, a Buick V8 in a 31 Buick, it wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy. A shoehorn.
Keep going. And the driveline?
Driveline is a 400 Auto Trans. Got a Ford 9-inch on the rear end. Cruising gear of 275, so I get 17, 18 miles per gallon.
You have air?
And air. Gotta have air in a coupe or in a car.
Now, did you build it?
Can't take that credit. I helped the guy, helped the mechanic, but...
Okay, my question is then you had something to do with deciding. You didn't find this car already done. You had something to do with deciding what to build.
Correct. It was my expertise and someone else's finesse.
And why did you specifically want something? Obviously, you wanted a traditional American street rod, but you wanted something different, obviously.
Definitely. You don't see too many Buicks, and especially 4-doors.
And in street rod form, you don't see any.
Exactly.
Did you want it this way for more room or what?
Well, sure. I need a couple of ladies to join me.
There you go. That's the spirit. That's what I like. The driving characteristics. How is it on the highway and all that? And what kind of front end and rear end do you have and all that?
It's running a Fat Man 2 front end suspension, 118-inch wheelbase, so it tracks beautifully.
Okay, when he's talking about Fat Man 2, that means it's not a 31 Buick front end. It's all modern,
yes.
Properly
Yes.
made, properly
Yes.
engineered front end suspension parts.
Yes.
So, it's a lot easier to do a street rod now than it ever used to be?
Yes, it is.
When you had to invent everything and make everything?
Yes.
Okay, who did the interior?
Interior came from the original rodder out of California, so it wasn't local.
Okay, listen, it's an absolutely exceptional car. And by the way, Chuck, go to the headlights. I don't know where you found those, but they just work just right with the car. What are those?
Those are headwind headlights.
Aftermarket stuff?
Aftermarket. The manufacturer specializes in motorcycle headlights.
Okay, now is there anything that I haven't noticed about your car that you're particularly proud of that you'd like the audience to know about?
The billet wheels, those are sharp.
Yeah, they are very sharp. Now, by the way, what do you use the car for?
Just cruising and
now,
showing.
Wait, you actually take and drive it around on the streets, normal driving?
This is not a trailer trophy. It's a driver.
It is an absolutely exceptional car. I'm telling you, folks, when I saw it, it blew me away. A 31 Buick 4-door street rod, and somehow he pulled it off.
Just beautiful. And I don't know if you noticed, in the background, there were many exquisite traditional American street rods on hand. Let's see if we can squeeze in one more. This one from the fat-fendered era.
Once again, we're talking about traditional American street rods, and when you talk about traditional American street rods, there are basically, in my judgment, 3 different kinds. You can go ahead and shut it off and come on out and join me, please. There are basically 3 kinds of traditional American street rods. The first is what I call the carriage-like machines, which are the T-Roadsters and the like. The second ones are what I call the square ones, meaning the 32 Fords, the 34 Fords, the 33 Fords, and all that. Please, miss, step right on in here. The final designation in there is what we call the fat-fendered cars. And Chuck, if you would, frame up the nose of the car. I want the audience to see the fat fenders, and then as soon as you've got that, I want you to come back over here a little close on my face, not too close. The camera can't take that. And the reason they're called fat-fendered cars is what?
You don't know.
Look at my.
I don't know.
Look
Ask
at
him.
look
He's
at
the
look
one
at
that
look
owns
at my
it.
face.
Fat
Here's
face.
the reason.
Big cheeks.
That's the reason. Is the big fat fender cheeks out of. First of all, you are.
My name is Ed.
Ed what?
Domino.
And where are you from, Ed?
Chicago.
And you are?
Pat White from Des Plaines.
From Des Plaines. Who can best tell me about the car?
Ed.
Please tell me what we've got here.
It's a 1940 Ford with a 396 big block with a 350 transmission.
That could not have been easily getting that in. Did you do any of the work on it?
No, I didn't. I spent a lot of money.
Boy, you had to spend a lot to get that big block in there.
Yes, I did.
Okay, why did you want the big block? I assume you specifically wanted it.
Well, a lot of people normally do that. They don't have a little Nissan motor in there, so they like to go to big blocks, and that's what was in the car. Well, not what was in the car, but that's what I really wanted, so that's what I had in there.
The interesting thing about that now, and I haven't seen it starting to take root yet, but the fact is they do have a small block that is now 427 cubic inches. That would make a whole lot easier engine installation and still have the big cubic inches. Yeah, the new Corvette Z06 is a 427, and it's the small block enlarged to 427. Yes. Now I want to talk about the 40 Ford. The 40 Ford is the prototypical fat-fendered street rod. There are a number of fat-fendered street rods that you could go to. As a matter of fact, Chuck, I don't know, there's a lot of people standing in the way, but if you swing down here, the medium blue colored one, there's a 40 Ford right here, dark blue.
Bill?
There's a medium blue one right there. It looks like a Plymouth.
Bill. I have to stop him every week because he gets so involved. But when the clock says we have to stop, we have to stop. Because we're out of time with only enough left to acknowledge the fine work of our award-winning production team, including Chuck Itzenthaler, Sue Kazanda, our webmaster Frank Barbalace, Rena Borwitz, and Tom McGrady. Special thanks to JBTV's Jerry Bryant. Music is created for us by independent artists Roger Pauley and Jerry Herbert. Of course, we have to take a moment to thank the stars of this edition of Motorsports Unlimited. Janine Lauschat, Patty Borwitz, and our host, Bill Wildt. Me, I'm Samantha Bentley, hoping you understand we can only bring you a tiny portion of any of the events we cover. To really enjoy them, you have to go in person. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
This program made possible in part by support from J.C. Whitney & Company, located just off I-80 at the Utica exit in LaSalle, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Jimmy's Red Hots, located on Grant Avenue and Pulaski Road in Chicago.
This program made possible in part by support from the Chicagoland Toys for Tots Motorcycle Parade held on Western Avenue in Chicago, the first Sunday in December.
Motorsports Unlimited is produced by Bill Wildt, president of the Motorsport Advancement Crusade.
This program made possible in part by support from ABC Auto Parts, located on Ashland Avenue at 138th Street in Blue Island, Illinois.
This program made possible in part by support from Bridgestone Firestone and your local Bridgestone Firestone tire retailers.
This program made possible in part by support from Copy That, located in the County Farm Plaza at County Farm Road and Army Trail Road in Carroll Stream, Illinois. This program made possible in part by support from PB Food Products, located on 47th Street at Western Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. Motorsports Unlimited was created to raise public consciousness, understanding, and appreciation of the motorsport community and their activities. You can contact us by email at msutv.com, or you can write to Motorsport, P.O. Box 66242, Chicago, Illinois, 60666. We enjoy hearing from our audience. Please let us know what you think.
Next week on Motorsports Unlimited, it's the annual Berwyn Route 66 car show. The biggest gets bigger. Join us next week on Motorsports Unlimited and check it out.
So that's it, another edition of Motorsports Unlimited and the lovely ladies of motorsports. And be with us next week because we'll have something real exciting. Bill Wildt's going to have the lovely ladies, and just about anything can happen right here on Motorsports Unlimited. Every week at this time, we bring you the best in motorsports. So be seeing ya. Bye-bye. And keep on rocking.